Alrighty.
Yep. Live on YouTube.
Yes, sir.
All right. Let me go ahead and share the live with my Facebook friends while we wait on our guest to join us. Welcome to the pilot interview, which will end up being part of a pilot episode, I believe. This time it is called Patch 6. And basically, we just want to talk about things that we're curious about and that people who watch us might be curious about regarding politics in central Alabama, which includes the 6th Congressional District. I now see Ken's face right there.
Hey, how y'all doing?
Doing well. So, for those who don't know, because I'm going to go ahead and introduce him, Mr. Ken McFeeters is a over-the-mountain businessman who has previously run in the Republican primary for the 6th Congressional District against Representative Gary Palmer. This year, he is one of a couple of candidates running for Republican gubernatorial candidate to replace retiring Governor Kay Ivey. We have a few questions for him, and hopefully by the end, you'll have a clearer picture of his vision for Alabama and why he wants your vote to be this state's next commander-in-chief. Good to have you here, Ken.
It's good to be here. I appreciate you guys. Appreciate all the podcasts. I mean, you're getting around and getting the real news to the people because no one trusts TV anymore.
Yeah.
And the mainstream media is insane. It's bought and paid for. So
I mean, there's definitely a bar to entry there with all of these politicians there's only when you have 10 people basically running in the same race, there's only a couple of them who have the money and name recognition to get all the media interviews. And so that's why it's important to have lower level lo-fi shows like us, which we just started. We were kind of surprised that you jumped on this opportunity so quickly, or offered up rather to be on our show, because our podcast, it didn't even exist yet. We had just decided it. We hadn't even announced it to the public.
You guys are the future. I mean, that's and like you said, the media only presents the stories with one or two guys. There's some media outlets, especially some conservative outlets, that are supposedly the mainstream conservative outlets in Alabama that haven't even mentioned my name. Not even mentioned my name. I was the only other candidate running for 8-9 months, never mentioned in my name.
Yeah, no, I think, there's a disconnect between certain institutions like 1819 News, which I hate to sound like that guy. Yeah, exactly. I hate to sound like that guy, but it kind of seems like their role there is controlled opposition, because if you think about it, if you were part of 1819 News's viewer base of all these very conservative, possibly you might also say predominantly MAGA, Alabamians who are following them, they might want to know about other candidates in the Republican Party who are talking about the things you're talking about, but they're just brushing it aside, not talking about you, just talking about Tuberville. It's amazing.
They're the mouthpiece for the establishment. That's all.
Absolutely.
It's propaganda. It's got nothing to do with news.
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't think any of my friends, would disagree with that statement. 1819 News is they're hacks. They're paid mouthpieces for the establishment, especially the right flank of the establishment, but they're really just there for the people who are already in power. So if you don't mind, I've got a few succinct questions, and Adam, do you mind introducing yourself? Because we've done most of the talking so far.
Well, I'm Adam McCain. I'm right now I'm kind of serving as the technical guy, just monitoring the broadcast, making sure everything's okay. I apologize if you don't see our camera at this time. That doesn't seem to be something I can control at the moment. But this was an idea that Jacob actually came up with, was something that enticed me, because one of the things that I noticed with politics in general, both local and nationwide, is the thing that local doesn't get as much attention as it deserves. So what I wanted to do was help. Why this enticed me was because I wanted to help bridge that gap between people that don't pay as much attention to politics with the help of average guys like us, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
And people don't realize all politics is local. I mean, if you
absolutely.
want your freedoms, and that's why I ran for Congress, knowing I wouldn't win. I just wanted to talk about what I wanted to talk about: Federal Reserve, our monetary policy, and things like that. And then people don't realize, and that's why I'm running for governor. It's local. That's the only way we can get our freedoms back. They've taken so many of our freedoms, and that's local is the way you do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think for better or worse, the system that we have and or are supposed to have, the states have a lot more power than people realize. The presidency, the race for president, all of that, CNN, Fox News, everyone, we're already arguing about whether we're going to vote for Gavin Newsom in 2028. He's on the other side of the country. He's, I don't know him, and we don't even know whether the man wants to run for president. But lots of people all over the place don't know who's running for their local county commission seat, or lieutenant governor.
Your school boards and your those are the ones that matter. And
Yeah.
your mayors that run the police departments. And, they police work for the mayors.
Yeah.
So that matters. If you want your freedoms, vote locally, get involved locally. Your school boards, things like that. Because our schools have been completely taken over. It's ridiculous. I mean, you look back 100 years and Rockefeller took over our school systems, and our schools are designed intentionally to not teach our kids by design. They don't want us. What was it? Thomas Jefferson said, "An ignorant country and free country is what never was and never will be." They want us ignorant. They don't want us to be free.
Now, Ken, are you telling me you're not a Rockefeller Republican?
If I could go back in time, I might do some things that I would regret and take some people out.
Yeah.
Honestly, we could all say the same.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad I don't have to hire a lawyer for you, because time machines do not exist.
Exactly.
But with that said, connected to education is industry, and one of the jobs of a governor in, I suspect, the vast majority of states, but really in a state like Alabama is, connecting with industry leaders and labor leaders and community leaders, and seeing what kind of industry we can work with or attract to. So with that said, what kind of industry would you seek to attract to Alabama as governor?
The best way to get industry to Alabama is take our schools back. Ben Franklin had a program that he worked on most of his life, and arguably, he's one of the most successful men in history. He had a 13 virtue program. I'm going to read them here. And he did this once a day. You spend a little bit of time every single night, and there's 13 virtues, and once a week you do one virtue, and then at the end of every night you say, did I live up to that? Where didn't I? At the end of the week you go over the next one, and after 13 weeks you start over, and you do it 4 times a year. And the first one he has is temperance, and that's sobriety. If you can't be sober, none of the other virtues are going to work. And then silence, order, resolution, frugality, industry, sincerity, justice, moderation, cleanliness, tranquility, chastity, and humility. And just take 2, frugality and industry. If you get kids to save money and work hard, more than likely they're going to have a successful life, as well as their kids. And I want this taught 1 hour a day, every day, for every kid while they're in school. And Franklin said, he goes, a virtuous people are a free people. And the only way to be virtuous, or only way to be free, is if you're virtuous. If we can get our kids, it only take a year or 2, we can get our kids to actually be virtuous, companies will fall all over themselves to come to Alabama to hire our virtuous kids. I mean, I do understand why they don't teach virtuous kids, because they don't want us free. This will let us be free. That will bring more industry, and it'll completely change the face of Alabama. We'll be the leader and envy of the world. We'll actually be educating our children. One thing that schools should be teaching, they don't, by design.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And I was a history major. I do love learning bits of history like that. One of the best papers I wrote was on the Federalist and Anti-Federalist papers. With that said, if you're proposing that you would push in the legislature at the state school board to make that part of a statewide curriculum, what would you say to people who say, I understand that sounds like a great idea. However, I'd rather this just be, if we're going to have that as a policy, I'd rather that just be considered by local school boards, superintendents, because they're the ones we put in place to decide these things about curriculum.
Right. And we need to do away with a lot of the bureaucrats in our school system. And those are the ones that would be saying that. If you've looked at our school system in the last, since they started the National School Association, or whatever it's called, the number of teachers per student has not increased over the last 30 years. I think it was in 1979 when they started, or 1980, right around that time. And the Department of Education, the U.S. Department of Education, and our school teacher ratio has not increased 1%, but our bureaucrats have increased 20-fold. It's insane. And we're paying these people $100,000 a year, and we're giving them the benefits for the rest of their life, and all they do is screw up our schools. And
I think that's an aspect of the whole education debate that's under-examined. And I've read, I've read
it. No one's doing anything about it. They always talk about it, but
no.
We gotta respect teachers.
I mean, I've read, but I think the thing is, right, in Alabama, you have mainstream Republicans and, Democrats who want an easy win of saying, raise the teachers' pay. That's great. Yeah, I want to probably raise. Personally, I would probably be fine with raising teachers' pay even more than what they propose. But I think if you're first
not doing it,
well,
they're intentionally not educating our children.
Where I was going to go is
love everybody. They don't.
Yeah, what I was going to go with that is I think the bigger issue with if your priority is the students themselves, right, is that we have teacher shortages all over the place, and we have these public schools where the classroom sizes are way too big.
The reason we have a teacher shortage is the bureaucracy. I'm 65 years old. I've got a lifetime of business experience, a lifetime of politics. I've got probably 25 years of political experience down in the legislature. I can't go teach a class. My next door neighbor runs the Shelby County school system. He can't hire me to go teach a class. You can get some, person that's 22 years old, just got a bachelor's degree or in teaching or whatever from some university that's run by Marxists, and that's okay. And they, have $150,000 in debt. Yeah, we'll hire that person to teach our kids. It's insanity. What we need to do is get our vets. If you've got 8 years in the military experience, and the local people, the principals and the local school boards, and take it away from the state, the local school boards think you'll be good and a good educator for our kids, hire them, pay them a teacher's salary. They don't need a stinking degree from a Marxist-run educational system. It's insanity. And
well, I don't know, Ken. I think Adam and I both went to University of Montevallo. That it's a state, long-standing state liberal arts university. No football team or anything. But there are a lot of people who come out of there and want to be teachers, and they do end up staying in the state. And I don't think Adam, would you agree? I don't think we saw a whole lot of Marxist indoctrination necessarily.
Well, I mean, I personally
That's who runs our school systems. That's who runs our universities. It's not just Montevallo.
Well, I mean, I was going to say I personally didn't see much. Granted, I personally didn't see much Marxist indoctrination. Granted, I kind of was used to it, seeing it across the whole Alabama school system. But I didn't really see much that stood out differently at Montevallo. But in terms of Yeah, I really didn't see much, honestly.
Yeah, I think most of our professors, I some of them were like, church going military guys, like the kind of guys you're talking about wanting to be school teachers, right?
Right.
It's like some that was more, I think, of what we saw than anything else. There were probably a lot of like professors who were maybe more like center left, but they didn't tell us how to vote or to go read Karl Marx or anything.
There was only, out of all the professors I can name that were out.
Go read Karl Marx. You got a free weekend? Go read Karl Marx.
I read it. I read it when I was 17. I thought it was like cool and edgy to be a Marxist in Homewood, Alabama. I didn't really understand it. There's a lot of abstract.
Too.
Yeah, there's a lot of abstract stuff in these like old philosophical books, and I'm more interested in like exciting, concrete things. Like I'd rather spend an hour reading Huey P. Newton than Karl Marx, because Karl Marx, if you spend a weekend reading Karl Marx, it's going to be all about like materialism and blah blah blah, and Hegel and all this stuff about Judaism in the 19th century. Whereas Huey P. Newton is like, okay, here's my like 10-point plan. But that I'm kind of getting off topic here.
No problem.
So my next question is, how would Governor McFeeters approach bills creating new felonies, restricting parole, and allocating money for new prisons? Because when you talk about the growth of the state, as you're very concerned about and very vocal about, that's one of the things that concerns me, is that as far as prisons and the criminal justice system goes, with the current people in power, it always goes one way.
Right, no question. One of the best things to do with the prisons, what if we can get a clean lottery bill, and we won't if Tupperville is elected. He just accepted a bunch of money from the Indians, or one of the gambling interests. I think it was the Indians, and that means we'll never get a clean lottery bill from him, but because he's already taken some money from folks that don't want a clean lottery bill. I'd like to get a clean lottery bill. I don't think a lot of people are. I think a lot of people would be for that. I'll buy a ticket in Georgia occasionally when it gets to $1 billion. I'll admit that. Bought a couple in Florida, and I think a clean lottery bill, if we could get it, and if you don't take money from the gambling interests, you could. We could take that money and put it into mental health. If we put money into mental health, right now, most of our prison systems, and not most, of a very large percentage of our prisoners are mental health patients, and they're not being treated correctly. They need to be in mental health facilities. If we got that money and we could treat those folks in mental health facilities, our prisons would clean out substantially. And then we could actually keep the violent criminals, to keep them in prison and not release them back to the neighborhoods. No one wants violent criminals in the neighborhoods, especially the poor neighborhoods. They're the ones that need the protection the most. And we need to keep the violent criminals in prison. And the ones that aren't mentally ill, let's treat them, as they should be treated in the mental health facilities.
And I think
addiction facilities.
I think Adam and I, if I can speak for him, both with personal experiences, I'll just put it that way, with mental health issues and these sorts of issues, especially as young men, right? I think we appreciate when a distinction is made between people who have mental health issues and people who are violent threats, because there's a stereotype that it's the same thing, and it's really not the same thing.
Yeah, and honestly, that's an answer that I have genuine respect for, prioritizing investing in mental health above all else, because investing in mental health is going to actually address the problem. It's going to make these situations what they should be, about rehabilitation where applicable, but recognizing that you really can't save them all. So that's just something I wanted to say. That is something that I have genuine respect for, an answer like that.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, I think I don't know what the last poll was I read on the lottery. I probably have it read enough polls on it to make a statement. But I think just about everyone I've ever met agrees that we should at least have the chance to vote on a lottery amendment. It's really just, the leadership dragging its feet and special interests. I think there's a little bit of disagreement about what it should fund, but I think that's
what I was going to say. One of the major things, like Georgia, and they fund colleges, college tuitions. And generally the folks that go to college are middle to upper middle class, and they're not the ones that buy lottery tickets. It's generally the lower classes or whatever on the pay scale. They're generally the ones that buy the lottery tickets. If you put it into mental health, I think it would help those folks the most. It's the lower income folks that are, the mentally ill. And a lot of we have to rethink medicine too. There's three big things that I want to do. And one is Alabama needs to be food independent. You can't be free until you're food independent. That's my thing. My election's about freedom versus oppression. I'm for freedom. To be free, you got to have food independence. You have to take your educational system back. And three, we have to rethink medicine. Our medicine was taken over at the same time that our educational system was taken over by Rockefeller. He closed down half the schools that didn't believe in allopathic healthcare, which is chemicals. And I mean, the doctors now, Kennedy just helped some, but the doctors today do not take not one class on nutrition. It's absolutely idiotic. And our educational system teaches two things, and that's by design. They teach you to memorize, remember what you're told, and compliance, do what you're told.
And I think part of that is high stakes testing which not only, maybe like conservative leaning statesmen or would-be statesmen such as yourself have a problem with, but also the teachers unions, have a problem with high stakes testing. They say they see it as an interference with their job.
Right.
They don't want to be teaching to the test. They want to be teaching to need.
Our schools, unfortunately, even the folks that write our school books, we're being taught a whole lot that's not true. So, and if you remember, if you're good, and this gets into the medicine, if you remember what you're told, if you excel at school, y'all know this, if you really excel at school, you remember what you're told and do what you're told. And complicit workers, not critical thinkers. But if you remember what you're told and do what you're told and are the best at school, where do you usually get invitations to go? Medical school. Medical schools are full of people that are good at remembering what they're told and good at doing what they're told. Doctors, you need to get over yourselves. If you're the smartest guys out there remembering stuff, start learning what's important, and it's not what you've been taught. And we have to get I've looked at the last 5 or 6 years through COVID. Very, very few doctors stood up to the nonsense that the government and the globalists did with the globalist response to a pandemic that they created. And it was insanity. But that's who our doctors are. Unfortunately, they are the best at remembering what they're told and doing what they're told. And they did exactly as was planned.
Well, I want to push.
Rethink medicine.
I want to push back on that a little bit because I think.
Of course you do.
Yeah, I mean, it's also as an interviewer, it's kind of my job, but
sure.
I think I have a little bit of respect for the position that medical professionals are in. I don't think we want an anarchic medical profession where every time an individual doctor changes their mind, they're just like, okay, I'm just going to go this way. I'm going to go that way. There's scientific research that's being done all the time. We have a coordinated system where whether you like it or not.
Follows the dollars. Generally, our research follows the dollars. And a lot of stuff we're being treated with is not right. You just saw recently the CIA was, I'll give you, for instance, my dog got diagnosed with nasal cancer about a year and 5 or 6 months ago. And if you research online, if you have nasal cancer, generally it's a very aggressive cancer. The dog usually goes down in 2 to 4 months. And it's been a year and a half, and she's as good now as she ever was. And I went and talked to the vet, and she goes, well, you can go to Auburn, and I think it would cost you $30,000, $40,000 to go give your dog chemo. And she's an elderly dog anyhow. It's like, I'm not going to do that because I wouldn't do that for myself. It's torture putting a dog on chemo and radiation. So I started giving her ivermectin, giving her by her weight, giving her twice a day. and she's still kicking, still running, still playing. She's 10 years old German Shepherd, but she's a great dog. And then I went back to the vet and just a month or so ago and talked to her vet. And she goes, well, how's the dog? And I said, she's doing great. I said, I was giving her ivermectin because and she completely changed the subject. And it's like, you have to be kidding me. I mean, why would you complete? And then, of course, then I gave her a $160 shot that, for itching, so they are designed in a system. Our doctors treat, they don't cure. And if you look at her, that's why I ran for Congress. If you look at our monetary system, and that's, I wanted to talk about this when I ran for Congress. Our monetary system has given us a system where the three companies, which are really one company, State Street, Vanguard, and BlackRock, and they own controlling interest in 95%. So they own controlling, which means they control the companies of 95% of our publicly traded companies. So they own all the food, all the people that supply our foods. That's why Alabama needs to be food independent and grow our own food. So they own the foods, and our foods are poison. They own the foods that are making us sick. They also own all the medical industry, for-profit medical industry, designed to treat the illnesses that our foods are causing. So they're treating the illnesses that they're causing. They're not curing them. They're treating them. And it's all one big scam. And we have to rethink this. I mean, we can't continue to do what we're doing and be healthy. We can't be. I want to be free. I'm tired of government taking our freedoms. My favorite quote. If you see my Facebook page, it's on there on the thing. My favorite Alabama State's Constitution. The constitutions are so important because people have forgotten the people have the power. We have the power. The people have the power. And we empower our government. The people empower the government through our constitutions. Only the people can change the Constitution. Article 1, Section 35 of Alabama's Constitution says that this is our Constitution. This is how we empower government. They don't empower us. We empower them. That the sole object and only legitimate end of government, this is the people talking, is to protect the citizen, us, in the enjoyment of life, liberty, and property. And when the government assumes other functions, it is usurpation and oppression. That's what the people have empowered our government with. That does not sound like what government's doing.
Yeah.
And I had to look up usurpation. We're just building a beautiful new facility down in Montgomery to house the legislature. I want to put that quote on a big plaque or monument at the entrance of every entrance to the new legislative building that says that. And usurpation is the illegal taking of power that's not given you. I had to look that up.
Yeah.
The definition.
That reminds me, earlier I tend to be one of the few people I think who watches. They do great work. I love them for this. The Alabama channel allows you to watch, like full on live streams of the legislature. And it can be cute sometimes. Because earlier,
I've gone down there, sat in it, and laughed sometimes.
Yeah, it's like it can be cute sometimes. Because like earlier, for example, I heard someone in the legislature yelling, "Okay, just reminding everyone, you have to have your furniture out of here by July." But anyway, what you were saying about keeping the government in check rather than the government keeping us in check, right? We empower the government. We are the ones who are in charge of any amendments to the Constitution. That brings me to the next question, which is I saw on your website, you address the issue of immigration and customs enforcement and the sort of federal enforcement being done all over the country. The target is allegedly illegal immigrants, undocumented immigrants, especially those who have been accused of committing violent crimes in the country. However, inevitably, I think it has ended up tangling up a lot of U.S. citizens and a lot of legal residents and all sorts of people who just shouldn't be targeted, all sorts of people who have had their rights violated all sorts of ways. So I saw where you wouldn't draw the line with ICE. You haven't you haven't promised to like on day one say, hey, ICE, get out of here. I wouldn't expect you to do that. I probably wouldn't expect Doug Jones to do that if he got elected. However, where would you draw the line with ICE? Because you gave a little bit of leeway for yourself in the statement you made on your website.
If you listen to what's going on in Minnesota with the ICE, the theater that's going on up there. First, they had the daycare centers, and then they had the big ICE thing to shut down the daycare centers and the hundreds of millions of dollars that was embezzled. And it's such a joke. It's all theater to keep our attention diverted. It goes back to our monetary policy. Our immigration policy creates debt. Our monetary policy encourages the creation of debt. That's why we have endless wars. That's why we have open borders for the South. And that's why we have unlimited entitlement programs. They all create debt. When we create debt, 7 families get to print themselves money. And that's a whole different can of worms. But the immigration and the ICE thing, our immigration by design, and the guy, Tesla guy, when he did Doge, he uncovered our real immigration policy through USAID. And Tupperville funded it, and they're still funding it right now. All the Republicans up there are funding it right now.
Yeah, because he does what he's told.
Of course, right. I won't even say. Our government is not only orchestrating, and not only paying for, but orchestrating the mass migration from south of the border into the United States, and just distributing them across the United States. We're paying for it with our tax dollars. It's our government that's doing it. They're not trying to stop it. Our government's doing it through grants given. They fund USAID. USAID is giving grants to NGOs, non-government organizations, that are orchestrating the mass immigration into the United States because it creates $500 billion a year in debt. It's a debt negative, and that's who they work for. They work for the bankers, and the bankers want the United States in debt. When we're in debt, they print themselves money. That's why we have an immigration policy that's completely screwed up. And it's paid for by our government, by us, not our government. We're the people are paying for it. We're paying for the mass migration and paying for and orchestrating them and bringing them here through NGOs. And it's insanity.
Yes.
And then they give you this theater up in, oh, no, we're for ICE. We're for, Obama deported more people than Trump's doing.
Yes.
So it's all theater. It's a joke.
Yeah.
People have to wake up, bring government locally. We got to take care of each other in Alabama. And I talked about our banking, the global banking system and the Federal Reserve and everything. That's why I wanted to run for Congress. Well, people are waking up, and there's going to be a big shakeup when enough people wake up, and the powers that be will probably do a little temper tantrum. And Alabama needs to be able to feed itself and take care of itself. As governor, you need to do that. We need to encourage all our farmers and get the government out. Our government, like everything else they do, takes away the small player in favor of the bigger player. And that way they get more donations. We have to get the small player back involved in farming. And they did it to our dairy industry. They did it to everything. We have to get the small guys back in farming. We have to feed ourselves, take care of ourselves. You cannot be free unless you can feed yourself. That's a definition of freedom. We have to feed ourselves.
Unfortunately, our system we're running here to do this live stream is telling us we're running out of time. So I just wanted to rush through these last couple questions. So your main Republican opponent, who we've mentioned a bit, Tommy Tuberville, I'll put it bluntly, has spent much of the campaign season thus far bloviating about Muslim Alabamians. So I want to ask you straightforwardly, is there a place for Muslim Americans and legal Muslim immigrants in this state?
Tuberville is doing what Tuberville does. He tries to divide, and it's what the government does. The government and the media, they try to use division and fear. They try to divide the people by race, by religion, by gender, by sex, and then they try to scare you. That's what he's doing. And if you look at Doug Jones, he's going to do the exact opposite because they both work for the same people. They try to divide. It's not they're divisive. That's what they do. They try to divide and scare people. Don't buy it.
And speaking of the congressional race, so last time there were a bunch of Republican candidates who were running to challenge Gary Palmer, who had previously promised that he wouldn't run for another term. This time there is only one Republican candidate, a young nurse named Case Dixon. That's the only challenger to Gary Palmer. So I want to ask, what advice do you have for Mr. Dixon and for the Democrat running against Gary Palmer this year?
I don't think the Democrat's going to have a chance. Case is a very nice young man, very smart young man. And Palmer, I mean, I hate it, but none of our congressional staff are doing. Congress ceded its authority to coin money 100 years ago to 7 families. We've been dealing with the descendants of those families since. Until Congress talks about our monetary policy, Henry Ford said, this is a Henry Ford quote, "It's well enough the people of America don't understand our banking and monetary system, for if they did, there would be a revolution before tomorrow morning." That's how screwed up our banking or our monetary system is in the United States. And none of the folks up there that are responsible for it are talking about it. I would tell Case, it's like, this is going to happen in our kid's lifetime. And he'll probably see it happen in his lifetime, that we'll get away from that. So that's number one. Creates most of our problems.
I'm sure when he sees if he sees this, he is, we are friends. He does follow my page. But I'm sure he'll appreciate your kind words.
I've had lunch with him at the Big Club. He's a great young man.
And by the way,
I invited him and he came.
And by the way, I just wanted to apologize for one quick thing, because I've been checking the broadcast. The audio is coming through crystal clear, but the images are frozen. That doesn't seem like something I can control, but I'm about.
I think our we're all pretty handsome guys, but I think it's of more interest to people what we're saying than to see a clear picture of our faces.
I know it's not that deep. I know it's not that deep. It's just something I wanted to disclose. I've checked the broadcast several times and just checked it again. Audio is coming through just fine, but it's just something I wanted to relay to you for if you went back and watched what we had. Are you just like, why is it frozen on my face this whole time?
Yeah. With that said, I think our time's running to a close. So do we have time to meet your government watchdog?
My government watchdog?
Yeah, your dog.
The furry one.
Oh.
The furry watchdog.
We're all dog lovers over here. Froze up, didn't it?
Froze up again.
Unfortunately, you froze up.
What you can do is send us a picture after the fact, and what I'll do is I'll go into the stream footage, and if you send us
back here then. I took the phone over to her to show her to you.
Yeah.
She goes with me everywhere. She goes to work with me every day. She's been on every campaign trail.
That is fantastic. So what you can do is just send us a picture after the fact, and I'll go through the broadcast and edit like a quick picture of her in.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I do not trust any commander-in-chief who is not 100% a dog lover. Do you?
That's true. I don't trust anybody who's not a pet lover in general.
Yeah, we definitely need furry canines in the governor's mansion.
All right, Mr. All right. Thank you for your time. Unfortunately, we're gonna have to bring this to a close because my Zoom is on a free plan and it's got a minute and a half left before it cuts off. But thank you for your time.
We need better monetary policy. We're broke.
That's true.
I just filled up my truck. It was $4.50 a gallon for $4.59 a gallon for diesel. It's insanity.
Oof, good.
I mean, it's and Tom Verville. Yes, what did you see that little thing he did where he goes, "What is it? Short-term pain for long-term gain." And
he's so stupid. He's so stupid. He doesn't even realize.
All righty, we got to go ahead and close this one off.
Thank you
for your
so
time.
much, Ken.
Thanks for what you guys do. Thank you very much.
You take care.
You too.
All right. Thank you for joining us, remaining audience. when is this next episode? When are we going to start doing these? We don't know if we're working it out as we go. You'll
Yep.
figure out. And now